Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the NFL Weekly Recap Show on the Basel Pod. Once again, Basel is out this week, but in his place, we have Ohm Brown, who is an angry Titans fan. I am a sad Cardinals fan. For the folks watching at home, you'll see that on the ticker. For those listening, that kind of describes where both Ohm and I are at this point in the season. And just to kind of highlight how this episode's going to go, we are both going to bash our teams endlessly throughout this pod, but we'll do our normal coverage as we always do. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. We still got some good weather in Northeast Connecticut. I'm not going to complain. Not too cold yet, so we're doing good. Red Sox in the playoffs, so at least one team's doing well.
Absolutely. I mean, we Yankees, as I'm a Yankees fan and you're a Red Sox fan, we had a heartbreak last night. Hopefully won't happen tonight for us, but it's an Aaron Boone led team. It's probably going to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
Getting into football, because playoff baseball is amazing, as is football at all stages, right? Let's get into our pick for game of the week. This one might be a little bit of a surprise, but you'll see in the next segment why we picked this game over a certain other one. Colts versus Rams. I thought top to bottom, this was an awesome game. Offensively, defensively, both teams just played really good fundamental football. A lot of times people will pick game of the week as a high scoring offensive shootout between both teams. Very rarely do we get to pick a game like this, 27-20, relatively tame score, but there was a lot of good football to be played. I personally thought Matt Stafford looked awesome. I'm not sure if you were able to catch any of the all 22 of this game, but just going through some of the notes here, he showed why he's still one of the best passers in the league, in my opinion. 29-41 passing, 375 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 123.5 passer rating, and 15 first downs. Box score obviously looks great, but if we look into the advanced analytics, it gets even better. 4 big-time throws for an 8.9 big-time throw rate. So that means on almost 10% of his dropbacks, he has a big-time play. He did have 2 turnover-worthy plays sprinkled in there, but when you're a passer like Matt Stafford, as aggressive as he is, that's going to happen. A 76.9 adjusted completion rate, and he was pressured 20 times and still performed at a high level for that. So he was really, really solid. I don't know what your thoughts are on Matt Stafford at this point in his career or how he's done this season, but would love to hear your takes on this game.
Yeah, I think they've done really well so far, and they beat an undefeated Colts team that, obviously Daniel Jones, the jury's still out on him. He's played well so far. But what stood out to me in terms of Matt Stafford was he had this type of game when the Rams struggled to run the ball. Kyron Williams, their bell cow back, had just 7 attempts and 37 yards, while second-year running back Blake Corum only had 1 run and got 5 yards on that. So they were pretty one-dimensional on offense, and he was able to put up some great stats, and they got the win.
Yeah, absolutely. And for the listeners at home, we have the notes up here. I might have missed it on here, but that's when they had a light box, which is less than 7 defenders in the box defensively. So it's normally when you have a light box, typically the offense, that's when they're in 11 personnel or even 10 personnel. Sometimes teams like the Eagles will run a light box against every formation they see, unless it's a heavy set, right? That's just a Vic Fangio special. But they were 48 snaps where the Colts had 6 guys in the box or less, and the Rams only ran 8 times, like you just mentioned, right? And they got 42 yards on 8 attempts. Like, good production and good efficiency, but the fact that the run game was relatively non-existent outside of total yardage, which is fine, but efficiency, it wasn't nearly as efficient as it could have been. That is pretty alarming at this point in the season. The Rams have done a good job, I think, establishing the run, but obviously they didn't in this game, and they still were able to win, which just shows the quality of offense that they're at. If we look at efficiency numbers, they were dead last this week in EPA per rush at negative 0.428 per rush, which is just insane. So pretty much every 2 runs, they're projected to lose a point. That's pretty bad. throughout the season, the first 3 weeks, they ranked 6th in EPA per rush. And that really came in yards after contact per carry. Before this week, they were 3.01 yards after contact per carry. This week, they were 2.09. So pretty much every rush, they got one less yard after contact. That doesn't sound like a lot. Like a yard doesn't sound like a lot, but when you do that carry over carry, they're missing. Those are 2 first downs essentially you're missing from yards after contact. Like that's a massive deal over the course of a game. That's extending drives. That's another 3 to 4 plays you get to run on those additional first downs, right? So that's the running game is, I hope it's not what happens going forward. I think they got away from their typical, power run style, duo, trap, counter. They got away from that and went more to zone, which against this Colts defense, I can see why they did that. This defense is absolutely loaded. So I think they'll get back to what they were doing the first 3 weeks as we go throughout the season, especially against a depleted 49ers team. But yeah, to your point exactly, I thought the run game could have been a lot better and they just opted not to run, but they didn't have to. The pass game was super effective. And Puka Nacua had an awesome game.
He did.
Going into the Colts side of the ball, you mentioned Daniel Jones has looked pretty decent. Tell me a little bit more about Daniel Jones' performance this past game.
Yeah, I mean, Daniel Jones, he has definitely done better than what I think Anthony Richardson would have done to this point. He went 24 for 33, 262 yards, had a passing touchdown, and got 11 first downs. I think the way this team is built with Jonathan Taylor, he's had a really good season so far. They don't need Daniel Jones to go out there and throw for 300 yards each game. So he is more of a game manager type of guy, but they need him to protect the ball. And he has done a pretty solid job doing that so far, but he did have some bad interceptions in the Rams game. So if you're the Colts, you hope that that's not a trend going forward.
I agree with that. And with the game manager piece, right? Like it's not an indictment on a quarterback if you're a game manager, right? Because like I've said Jalen Hurts is a game manager multiple times on this podcast, but Jalen Hurts is still a really good playmaker. When he needs to extend the ball downfield, he can at a high rate and he can make plays with his legs, right? Like that's good for a quarterback. Daniel Jones is kind of in that same bucket, but not as athletic, not as strong of an arm, not as accurate. So when he has to push the envelope like he did towards the end of this game, we see what happens when it doesn't go his way, right? Like when it doesn't go Jalen Hurts' way, he puts the ball where only his receiver can get it, and the receiver sometimes misses, or he's putting it out of bounds and not putting it towards the defense, right? At least typically he's not. Daniel Jones is the opposite. If he's not hitting his receiver, it's going right to the defense. He had 3 turnover-worthy plays this game, a 7.5 turnover-worthy play rate on the game, which is pretty bad. But an area of improvement that Daniel Jones has had is he played much better under pressure this game. Normally he is horrible under pressure and hasn't been pressured a ton through the first 3 weeks. He got pressured 16 times this game. On those 16 pressures, he completed 12 of 14 passes for 181 yards. He threw a touchdown and had no turnover-worthy plays when he was pressured, which is a massive statement to the kind of quarterback he's developed into. An 142.6 passer rating, which was by far the highest in the NFL in week 4 when pressured, and 6 first downs. Like he was great under pressure, but when he tried to force plays and make them happen when he wasn't pressured, that's when we saw a bad interception early in the game, another near interception on a Michael Pittman pass over the middle. And then when he needed to make a play towards the end of the game, no pressure, had time to look around, and took a one-on-one shot down the deep left side and it got picked off. Like that's just what's going to happen when you have a quarterback like Daniel Jones. When he's not game managing and he's trying to push plays and make them happen, that's how the Colts end up losing that game, right? And I'm not blaming it entirely on him. There was another player who, again, I'm not going to blame the loss on him completely, but He took 14 points off the board, and that's Adonai
Yeah.
Mitchell. Dude, I'm sure you saw all the stuff about the game after that.
Yeah. I mean, since I am somewhat of a Texas fan for college football, I watched him a lot in 2023. And while he didn't do something as careless as that, there were a lot of games where he would just have these lapses in judgment. If things weren't going his way, he'd start pouting, and there's just overall character concerns about him. And yes, he's a very good receiver and can be a very good receiver, but there's just plays like that that just can't happen. Last year as a rookie, there was a backwards pass to him that he tried to throw back, and that got um, intercepted for a touchdown off a trick play where just there's little things that he has to be smarter about. He hasn't been. And I think he could be a real weapon for the Colts, but after that, I just don't know how much they would really give him an opportunity. They do have a loaded receiver room. They have Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce, Josh Downs is really good. Tyler Warren, the rookie tight end, has looked really good as well so far. So I think he's going to be in the doghouse for a while after that.
I would agree with that for sure. It's tough when you're the type of player he is, and I believe they used a second round pick on him. And he just
Yeah.
has not lived up to that second round hype. I know like second round hype sounds like a weird statement, but second rounders can be very. I mean, Brian Branch is already one of the best DBs in the NFL, and he was a second round pick. Like I
Yeah.
thought he should have been a top 10 guy, right? But that's past, right? And we've seen the returns on that, right? And there are some second rounders who don't pan out. But getting into for those that didn't watch the game, I'll just kind of explain what happened. Adonai Mitchell was the left receiver, makes an unbelievable contested catch against the DB and spun off his tackle, outsped another guy. And as he's about to go into the end zone, he goes to celebrate and goes to switch hands that the football is in. As he's switching, he bobbles it and it rolls out of the end zone. And he lost control before he went into the end zone. So that's a touchback, and the defense gets the ball. So it would have been a 76-yard touchdown. It would have been a massive game-changing play at that point in the game. But, mistakes happen. Jonathan Taylor did the same thing the year before, and he's been the best running back in the NFL this year, bar none. Not bar none, but I would pretty confidently say he's been the best. So even superstars make those mistakes. This is when the kicker came in. It's the fourth quarter. Colts are trying to get a quick score and go ahead. And he got a holding call that negated a 53-yard Jonathan Taylor touchdown. That not would have put the game away, but put him in a much better situation than one that ended up being. He was on, again, left receiver. The DB had inside leverage. He went to cut him off, which he did, but for whatever reason, he stuck his arm out because he wanted to make sure he was away. The DB ducked and he grabbed the back of his jersey and just his momentum yanked him down. So it was a hold, but it also wasn't really. So they got him flagged for that. All he had to do was just stand in front of him and put his hands up, and the block would have been just as effective. JT was already gone. So 2 plays like that, 14 points off the board in a game that was decided by 7 points, right? Like if he just makes one less boneheaded play, that's a tie game and they potentially have a chance to win. If he doesn't make either of those boneheaded plays, they win that game easily. And there were a lot of other things that happened in the game, but those are the 2 big moments that those define games and those define players. And AD is super talented. He is a smooth route runner. He has great ball skills, but you can't have that kind of head in the NFL and not succeed. And I agree. I think he will go to the doghouse, especially when Alec Pierce comes back healthy. I just hope that he doesn't stay in there for long because the talent is absolutely there.
Yeah, for sure. And, I think that it's not just like a one-off game where he's done this. He did that last year against the Broncos, or not the exact same thing, but still another stupid play. And he is young, but it's just not a good sign that he's had multiple instances over multiple games especially considering that this is year 2 in the pros for him. I hope he can turn it around. He, like you said, he is a really good route runner, but we'll see how the Colts approach him and where he is in this offense.
If there's anyone that can reel him in, I think it's Shane Steichen. I think he's done a good job building this culture, building this roster to be playoff contending, and somehow start off 3-1, potentially almost started 4 now, right? And that was a little unexpected, right, for the Colts to be this good. We're going to switch gears, and we're going to go into the game with the most unexpected result. Normally, this is when we talk about a game we learned the most from. We'll save that for after this. But game with the most unexpected result, I'm going Packers-Cowboys for this one, simply just because it ended in a tie, right? And we thought this was going to be a Packers blowout, and it was very much looking that way for a lot of the first half. And again, this probably would have been game of the week if it didn't end in a tie, because of just how insane the fourth quarter was, and overtime was obviously great until it ended in a tie, naturally. But as an athlete and as a football enjoyer, I hate ties. I think they're the dumbest thing in sports, including soccer. What do you think about ties in the NFL, and what would you propose that they should change?
I think it's right there in front of the NFL. I mean, what college does is really, really fun. They set up the ball on the 25. So the offense is basically in the red zone. They say, hey, if you score a touchdown, the other team gets to match. And if the other team scores a touchdown, they start again in the second overtime. And you keep doing that. But I believe it is the second overtime where you have to go for 2 after a touchdown, and then either the third or the fourth overtime where it's just strictly 2-point conversions. I think that is really good because it's, you don't have to drive the whole field. It's just more fun to watch, honestly. And it puts an emphasis on, you get the ball first, you got to go score a touchdown, because the other team is, like, if you take a field goal or fumble, interception, whatever, the other team is right on the 25, right near the red zone, ready to score.
I love that. It's college does it right. And it's a little, you can argue it's a little different for college because there's more parity and randomness in college, but there's still that in the NFL. Like, there are teams who suck the entire year and take down a great team who is going to be in the playoffs. Like, it's how it happens. And there are teams who are bad to start the year and end up being playoff contenders by the end of it, right? Like, there's so much randomness and parity within football, regardless of skill level, that I agree, right? Like, we should incorporate what college does. Like, I believe you should modify it a little bit, because I believe college, it starts at the 25. It might start at the 20 or 30. I might be mistaken.
It's somewhere in there. It's either way, it's a really short field.
I would love to see the NFL adopt, and this might be a little much, but you get 1st and 20 from the 40. You got to get to the 20. And then you get 1st and 20 from the 20. You got to get into the end zone and modify it for the NFL. Like, I think that would be, you would get explosive plays on offense. Teams would be forced to pass, so teams aren't going to ground and pound like they do in overtime right now, which, like, as a football guy, I love the run game. There's so much nuance to it. But to the majority of fans, they'd rather see quarterbacks slinging the ball around at 100 miles an hour rather than seeing a running back churn forward for 3 yards, right? Like, it's for the health of the game and what's going to get the most audience, and also still make it feel the most like football. Ties don't feel like football at all, right? And especially in playoffs, you get rid of that anyways, right? Like,
it's just you keep going until I think they get a chance to match, and then it's like, if the quarter ends, you keep going until there's a winner.
Exactly. And that is, like, it's good for playoffs. In the regular season, it's tough to do that and still keep it within a 10-minute window, because the first team is going to chew the clock down as much as they can anyways. So then the second team, you're in scramble drill. You're like, oh shit, I got to I have 3 minutes to go down and
Yeah.
score. They just had 7 minutes. So now my play calls are limited, right? Like,
Yeah.
so, and that's why, like, I believe the Packers deferred and played defense first. And I get why they did it with the new rules. But when you have a team like the Packers, who's as efficient as they are, you could probably chew 8 minutes off that clock, where the Cowboys have to rely on explosives, right?
Yeah.
So that's, I hope there's another change. I don't know when it's going to change, because I agree. Like, the notion that people were like, oh, well, both teams getting a chance is stupid. Like, well, you should have scored in the first 60 minutes and taken the lead. I see from the other side where, like, well, the other team had 60 minutes to also outscore them. So why should they not get a chance in overtime like the other team is getting because of a coin flip,
for
a
sure.
50-50 chance, right? Like, so I think there's a way to incorporate what college does, modify it for the NFL, and have a winner and have it get to that point.
Yeah, I think it's not an exact comparison, but Major League Baseball did a similar thing for extra innings where they just added the guy who made the last out in the ninth inning. Boom, he's on second base. Now we're seeing like 10 inning games, maybe 11 inning games instead of these drawn out 14, 15 inning games where it's like, okay, pitcher has nobody on to start an inning, whereas now there's a guy on second, there's a little bit more strategy. Do they bunt him over? Once you bunt him over, you have 2 shots to get him in. Like if the away team scores first, home team's probably going to walk the leadoff hitter to make a double play situation. So I think if the NFL takes a page out of the Major League Baseball extra inning rule, I think we could see similar to what you said in terms of like start at the 40, have a first and 20, something like that, where there's also some gamesmanship and strategy involved as well.
I think that's a really good analogy. Like, see what baseball's done, right? Like, baseball's made like a lot of changes, but the games are shorter, lengthwise, time wise, and it's more entertaining and there's more action, right? Like, the NFL can make that happen for overtime. If the MLB can do it, that's even more traditional than the NFL.
Yeah.
Roger Goodell can make something happen.
Yeah, like the MLB is, I think it was like 2022, and then after that, so 23, 24, and this year. In these last 3 years, they've had so many rule changes. Like they banned the shift, they had the extra inning rule, they made the bases bigger. They're gonna have the automated balls and strike system next year, and it works. Like I love it. I would never watch a full baseball game on TV, whereas now I will do that. Like if I have nothing going on a Saturday, I'll do that. Whereas in the past, I wouldn't have. And, obviously people will watch a whole football game, but they got to do something about the overtime.
Agreed totally. Before we got to overtime, we had a good game between both teams. Really good game. I want to start with the Packers because Packers, and myself included, we're hyping them up to be a top 5 team, looking really good. This defense was going to be unstoppable. And for the most part, they have been. They allowed only 6 points to the Lions, 18 points to the Commanders, 13 points to the Browns, all of which came in the fourth quarter. And then they had this huge blow-up game against the Cowboys, which got out of hand way quicker than I think they anticipated. I think, and again, not to pin this on one player, I noticed once Nate Hobbs went down, and I'm not saying Nate Hobbs is a great corner. He's a quality starter in the NFL. Not going to say he's a good player, but he's a quality player in the NFL. Once he went down and Carrington Valentine came in, and I think Carrington Valentine has some juice to him. I think he's good in moderation in not limited snaps, but not as a starter, as a supplemental player. When he got thrusted into that CB2 role opposite Keyshawn Nixon, he allowed 5 receptions on all 5 targets, 72 yards and a touchdown, 158.3 passer rating allowed on only 16 coverage snaps. Like, that's a third of the time you're getting targeted, and on all those targets, the offense is moving the ball on you. Like, that is, I don't know if it was just matchup, scheme, what the deal was, because he's normally not that, I don't want to say bad, but just like poor quality type player.
Yeah.
But that was not getting it done. And to add to that, besides Micah, no one was getting Carl Brooks had 5 pressures. He did well, but he had like 40 to 50 pass rush snaps. Like that's roughly around like 10 to 12% pressure rate, right? Like that's not great. But if we look at total pressures, Micah had 10 pressures in that game. The rest of the defense had 9 combined. And some of that overlap. Dak was pressured 15 total times. So at least 4 of those pressures overlapped with other pressures, right? So with the defense not being super deep in the secondary, no one up front really getting it done besides Micah, at least in this game, because in other parts earlier this year, other guys were getting pressure and doing well in pass rush. There are some opportunities for opposing offenses to take advantage of the Packers. And I think a lot of that is going to come down to how well teams run the ball against them and set up explosive play action plays, hitting passes over the intermediate part of the field and picking apart matchups, which is a part of the NFL. But I think when you play the Packers, you have to play the matchup game more in order to beat them. Because once you overcomplicate it and you start worrying about how deep they are on defense and just trying to out-scheme them, like this defense is too good at the starter level.
Sure.
When you find those individual matchups, that's, at least in my opinion, based on what I've seen through the first 4 games, the matchups is what's going to be the big point of emphasis, I think, for teams moving forward. I don't know what your thoughts were on the Packers before they came into this game or, after this game, but do you think there's any areas of improvement this defense could take going into, the next 3 quarters of the season?
Yeah, I mean, I was high on the Packers coming into this game. I have Dak and George Pickens on my fantasy team. I decided to bench them for Tet and Jared Goff. So, I lost by like 5 points.
Cheers to that, brother.
So that was a great management. But yeah, I mean, I think that the way they're built this year is a little bit funky because they have a lot of depth on the outside of their defensive line, but they traded away Kenny Clark to get Micah Parsons, who was their premier run defender up the middle. So, I mean, obviously you would rather have Micah Parsons than Kenny Clark, but they're going to have to figure out how to stop this run. And it's almost like they're doing that on the fly just because of how late that trade was. But, I mean, like, if you're the Packers, you'll take a game like this early in the year just because, you started up here and now it's bringing you back down a little bit more towards reality where the defense isn't going to, give up 10, 14, 17 points a game. So I think they can definitely use this as a learning tool going into the rest of the season. And I would expect them to have a good next couple of games and really come out with a point to prove next week.
Agreed. And I think the run defense is going to have to be a point of emphasis because, I know Micah's a very good run defender in his own right. I'm not going to take anything away from Micah, but a part of the game that he struggles with and kind of that he struggled with throughout his whole career as he's transitioned to this defensive end role is defensive linemen in general. When the guy in front of you goes away from you, right? Let's say I'm lined up on the right side of him and he's on my left shoulder and he goes to my left away from me. Defensive linemen are taught, unless they're penetrating upfield because they're trying to force to run back inside, they're taught to squeeze down the line and close the space. And some people say track the near hip of the lineman. Some people track the near shoulder, get hands on the shoulder and wash him down. That's how it's taught. What happens sometimes is then the puller, let's say they're running power to his side or sweep or counter or something. When the puller comes around and sees that defensive end closing that space, they use something called a log technique where instead of trying to kick them out, they just wrap around them and pin them even more inside, and it allows the running back to bounce outside. And that's what it looked like Javonte Williams was able to do a lot, especially when they ran to Micah's side. Now Micah's like he's a premier pass rusher. Like he's top two. It's him and Myles Garrett. And I know people are going to say, well, TJ Watt, Max Crosby. I'm sure there's 10 million other Aiden Hutchinson. Like there's 10 other guys I'm forgetting. Trey Hendrickson is another guy, right? But like Myles Garrett and Micah are in a league of their own in terms of premier pass rush. Myles Garrett is a much more complete defensive end overall because he's a sick run defender too. Micah is a very good run defender, but there's that nuance he's missing because he's not new to the position anymore, but it's still there's secondhand things you learn from playing defensive end your whole life that you won't pick up necessarily.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So
he came out of college as a kind of what Penn State did with Abdul Carter up until this past season, where he was more of an outside linebacker instead of just a guy off the edge. And I mean, that's fine. Like he's very athletic, he can play multiple positions, but there's pros and cons to everything. Like Myles Garrett can't really do what Micah Parsons is able to do in terms of having that multi-positional versatility. And it's the exact opposite for Micah Parsons. He can't really be a Myles Garrett in the run defense off the edge.
Absolutely. And with that, let's transition to the offensive side. Jordan Love and Dak Prescott. This was an awesome game between both of them. Jordan Love, I don't want to say more the game manager side, but he took what the defense gave him, right? Like he had a really low average depth of target at, I believe it was 5.9, which is pretty low, but he still did well on his intermediate and some of his deep passes. And Dak Prescott, as he always does, attacked every level of the field, was just a menace on all sides of, not all sides, but all levels of the field, just putting a lot of stress on this defense. And he was the reason why they were even in this game to begin with, right? So when we look at Jordan Love, 31 of 43, 337 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 118.1 passer rating and 17 first downs. I'm not going to go through all the advanced analytics, but he had a 91.7 adjusted completion rate. Like that is stupid. 9 out of his 10 passes that are on target is going for a gain. Like that's really, really good rate. And then he was pressured 19 times. Against the Browns, he got sacked 5 times and was pressured about the same. This week, he only got sacked once. So improvement in sensing pressure, getting the ball out quick, and really controlling the game within the offense. Dak Prescott, on the other hand, did well as well. 31 for 40, 319 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 124.9 passer rating and 17 first downs. And then for him, an 82.1 adjusted completion rate, and he was pressured 15 times. Really, really solid game from both. Like I said earlier, Packers schemed up the quick game. If you look at the next gen passing chart, which I don't think is the end all be all for quarterback performance, but there was 6 passes, 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage on the right side, all in the pocket. That brought down his average depth of target a lot. So if we look at the intermediate game, which he didn't have a lot of passes, 10 plus yards down the field, but he was 4 or 5 for 47 yards with 2 touchdowns. He had 1 big time throw, and he would have been 5 for 5 if not for Romeo Dobbs drop. So that was pretty, not great to see from Dobbs, but still really good from Jordan Love. And then Dak Prescott, if we combine the intermediate and deep game, he was 8 for 13, 145 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 big time throws, and 139.4 pass rating. You can't ask any more from Dak Prescott in that game.
Yeah, for sure. And the Cowboys offense didn't have CeeDee Lamb in this game. So I think that was another big thing where we've seen this whole year, Dak has looked really healthy. I mean, he came back from a completely torn hamstring, which is a really tough injury to come back from. And he's looked really, really sharp this year. And that's what they need him to be, because the way their team is built, they're built to win games like this. And obviously they tied, but like you said earlier, he was the reason why they were in this game, and I think it was just a great showing from him, especially considering that CD was out.
And to be built for games like this, to your point, right? Like you need to have a rushing attack. Like I know it's not super efficient to run anymore in the NFL, but you need a good run game to be successful, right?
Yeah,
So
for
looking
sure.
at the Cowboys right now, they're fifth in EPA per rush. Which, if you looked at their running back room and their offensive line coming into the season, you'd be like, how in the hell are they that efficient? And there's two key elements. One of them is a guy, Clayton Adams. He was the offensive line coach for the Cardinals the past few years. He's now the OC, scheming up the offense with Shoddy over there, and he's done a great job revamping this run game. And if you want any indication of that, look at the Cardinals run game the past 2 years versus how it's been the past 4 games. It is night and day how much worse the Cardinals run game is, which we'll get into that next segment. But this offensive line, which has had injuries, Cooper Beebe's out, Tyler Booker's out, their highly touted rookie. Tyler Guyton might be playing through an injury. So you have 2.5 offensive linemen who are not there, essentially. They are averaging on just running back, halfbacks and fullbacks, running back design runs. They are averaging 1.84 yards before contact. So that means the running back's getting almost 2 yards past the line of scrimmage before he's even getting touched. That's ridiculous. The NFL league average, if you take the Cowboys out of it this year, is 1.17. That's insanely good for the Cowboys to be doing that, performing almost a yard above the average. And this is an offense that we thought would have no run game and it would be non-existent. And if you look at aggregate stats, yes, the passing game is much more potent than what the running attack has done. But from an efficiency standpoint, execution standpoint, and the personnel they have in the backfield to get it done with, that has been the biggest surprise, I think, this season is how effective this rushing attack is.
Yeah, and I saw it firsthand from being a Titans fan, and it's different spectrum because obviously when Derrick Henry and AJ Brown and Tannehill were there, they relied heavily on the run. But when Henry had these good games, you'll always look at like from 2020, Ryan Tannehill and AJ Brown. That offense was great because Derrick Henry was able to open up the passing game. And while it's not the exact same type of offense that the Cowboys have, their running game is opening up their passing game really, really well. And like you said, we didn't think they were going to be able to do this, but they are, and they've looked really good doing it. And their offense, once they get CD back, I think they're going to take it's hard to say that they're going to take another step forward because they look great, but anytime you can add your number one receiver back into the mix, it's only going to do good things for you.
Agreed. And I think that's going to be what puts this team over the top, right? Like, and that's when they can start to compete again in the NFC is once CD comes back, they get Tyler Booker back. I don't know if Cooper Beebe is going to win his starting spot back, but if he does, I hope he does well because I thought he was pretty solid moving to center for the first time in his career. Hopefully that's what puts the offense over the top, and the defense is going to be the defense. They're going to allow 30 points a game, and the offense is going to have to shoot out, and we're going to see what happens, right? When we flip over to a certain team that we've alluded to this entire podcast, this is not on paper. It should be a much bigger explosive offense than what we've seen, and their defense has held opposing offenses at bay the entire year, and they've done an awesome job. That obviously being the Arizona Cardinals, and the game we learned the most from was that Thursday night bout against the Seahawks. Not bout, kind of more of a scrum for 50 minutes.
I think that's a great word for it.
Yeah, it was definitely just two defensive-minded coaches battling it out through scheme, attacking weak spots on the opposing offense, and not allowing many explosive plays. This Seahawks defense, though, oh my God, this might be a top 5 unit at the end of the year. Not to be takey, because I don't like being takey, but I remember watching this game, and I have my gripes with the Cardinals offense, but if you remove offensive scheme you're going against, The Seahawks are so fun to watch defensively. They have a really good edge rush rotation. They have pretty much 4 edge rushers who could be starters on most teams in the NFL, with DeMarcus Lawrence, Boye Mafe, Uchenna Nwosu, and Derek Hall. They're all awesome in their own right. Secondary is really good. Devin Witherspoon is one of the best nickels in the league. Kobe Bryant has had a really good resurgence. Not resurgence, but has figured out how to play the free safety spot. Josh Joby out of nowhere has been, or Job, I'm not sure how you pronounce the last name, but he out of nowhere,
me either.
He's been one of the most effective corners in the NFL. He's been awesome to watch. And they're 8th in EPA per play allowed on the season, which is really good. Something that the Cardinals have done well with is not allowing pressure. Kyler was pressured on 17% of his dropbacks, and he got sacked on 6 of them. Not great. They held the Cardinals to 253 total offensive yards, or 3.95 yards per play. Here's the kicker to that, though. Before those last 2 drives, the Cardinals had 139 total yards of offense and averaged 3.09 yards per play before the 4th quarter. And this is supposed to be an offense that is explosive, has a dynamic running back duo. I know, obviously, James Conner is hurt now, and he's not a part of that, but the offensive line they've rebuilt from the ground up, pretty much with guys they brought in on their own, except for Jonah Williams and Evan Brown. Trey McBride is a top 2 tight end. He's very good. Marvin Harrison is all the talent in the world. Michael Wilson's supposed to be a really good wide receiver too. Kyler Murray's a playmaking quarterback. At least that's what he's been labeled as. And nothing has clicked for this offense. And it definitely didn't click in this game. And the Seahawks took advantage of that. They had 2 interceptions, 2 pass breakups, 2 batted passes at the line of scrimmage. So that's 6 pass plays just wiped off the board from the Cardinals just on miscues, and Seahawks taking advantage of the miscues. And what helped with that, the Seahawks were able to get downhill and be aggressive, and the safeties were allowed to play tighter towards the line. They weren't threatened over the top. And I'm going to elaborate on that during my rant that I have coming up soon. But I don't know if you've been able to watch any of the Seahawks defense this year. And if you have, would love for you to elaborate. But if you haven't, what do you think? I'm trying to figure out the right way to word this. Do you think that could this defense add any more to what they're currently doing from what you've seen?
I haven't watched that many Seahawks games, so I don't really know too much about what they've been doing, but they've played really, really well. And going through their first 4 weeks, they gave up 17 points to the Niners, 17 points to the Steelers, 13 to the Saints, where it's like, okay, Saints suck. I mean, they're the 2nd worst team in football, but still 13 points. That's great. And then the Cardinals scored the most points against them with 20. So, I mean, obviously the Niners are banged up. The Steelers, who really knows about what they're doing? But the fact that through the first month of the season, the most amount of points they've given up is 20 that's really, really good. And do I think that they can do that every single week? No. In the NFL, you're always going to have the 1 or 2 random games where what you think is going to happen, the exact opposite happens. But they've got Mike McDonald, defensive-minded head coach, was the defensive coordinator for the Ravens a couple of years ago when their defense was absolutely loaded. I think they're definitely trending in the right direction. And Sam Darnold has looked really, really good this year, which I was kind of skeptical about him because the Seahawks line is not as good as the Vikings line. He's going from Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison to Jackson Smith and Jigba and Cooper Kupp. And while they're both pretty good, I mean, JSN's not Justin Jefferson, but he's played really well. I mean, he's got 905 yards, 5 touchdowns, 2 picks, and 70% completion percentage, 42 first downs. I don't want to call him just a strict game manager because I think he's slightly above that. But he's been playing really clean football, and when you have a good defense, there's going to be a lot of games where you just have to play clean football and not turn the ball over and take your shots when you get them, but just keep moving the ball, score some points, let your defense do the rest of the work. And I think he's a perfect quarterback for that system.
I agree with that. And I think when he does take those shots, right? Like if we look at like PFF passing grades, right? Which like I know are not the end all be all, but he's the highest graded deep passer in the NFL right now. And that was the same as last year. Like he was the best deep thrower in the NFL last year per PFF, right? And I know a lot of people don't like to put stock into PFF grades, myself included. I am skeptical of them. But when you look at the advanced analytics, which PFF is what they're known, not what they're known for, but I think is what they're really freaking good at. Sam Darnold is top 3 in a lot of categories in the deep game. And when you turn on the tape, it matches that. And I think that's kind of what he brings to the table is that not only is he an effective, if you want to call him a game manager, you can call him that, but he's a game manager with a damn good deep ball. And I think that's when he steps out of those game manager conversations.
Yeah.
And it's a perfect modern pro style quarterback is what we're seeing. And he finally, I think any QB that gets to work with Kevin O'Connell for a day is going to be better than any quarterback that doesn't work with him. That's not Pat Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, those type quarterbacks, right? Like you can become a middling below average quarterback and become a quality starter just from getting a cup of coffee with the guy, right? Like he is just, I don't know what it is about him. He's just a damn good coach, right?
I mean, we've seen that with Daniel Jones. I think a lot of people forget that he was a Minnesota Viking for the second half of the season last year. He's looked pretty good.
Yeah.
I think, who knows, Carson Wentz next year. Maybe he's the next guy in line. I don't know. I feel like we've had a lot of guys who've been labeled as busts break out, whether they're going to McVay or KOC, like Baker and Darnold are the main the headliners of that. But we've definitely seen some resurgent quarterbacks the last couple of years.
And for quarterbacks who have not had a resurgence and I think have taken a major step back, Kyler Murray is in that category for me. And this is going to be the start of my Cardinals rant. And after this, you'll have your Titans rant, as you very well should. But the Cardinals suck. I can't, this team should be so much better than it is. And I think there's a lot of issues at play. I think it's a coaching issue. I'm not saying get rid of Kyler Murray, but I think there's quarterback issues he has that I don't know if he can get over it after his ACL tear. Like rushing ability is still there, but passing wise, he just doesn't seem confident in his feet to stand in the pocket and deliver a strike, which is not been his game. But this is his 7th year in the league. You would have figured you would figure he would have added that arsenal to his game, right? And he hasn't. But if we just compare year 3 under Jonathan Gannon, who I have sung my praises about him, I think he's done this rebuild the right way in terms of the type of personnel he's brought into the building, player-wise, his relationship with Monty Austin-Fort, the defense he employs, and how he trusts his coaching staff to get things done, right? I think he's done everything by the book that a rebuilding head coach should do to succeed in the NFL. And it's been a breath of fresh air until recently versus what Cliff Kingsbury did as a head coach. So if we look at year 3 of Jonathan Gannon, he is 2-2 so far. He beat the Saints 20-13. They let Spencer Rattler hang around, and they nearly tied the game on a Juwan Johnson drop in the end zone. It wasn't a drop. It was a really tough contested catch. But, I think Juwan Johnson's a good tight end. A great tight end is making that catch. And the Saints are currently 0-4. So Cardinals and Saints could have the same record. They could be 1-3 if that play goes differently and they get a 2-pointer or they win an OT. Then they beat the Panthers 27-22. They were up 27-3 halfway through the third quarter, and they let them crawl back into that game. Bryce Young had a great second half, but they let them come back into that game. That game came down to the final drive, and the Panthers are currently 1-3. And they just got destroyed by the Patriots. Then you lose to the 49ers, 16-15. They didn't have Brock Purdy. They lost Nick Bosa during that game. They were also missing George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Juwan Jennings, and more. And the Cardinals had 3 drops and 2 contested catch incompletions. If they catch any one of those, that game is different. And with that, the 49ers are currently 3-1. They just dropped their first game of the season to the Jaguars. But 3-1, good record for a team that's battered. Then we obviously lose to the Seahawks 23-20. Marvin Harrison had a brutal first half, but he figured it out, had a much better second half. Cardinals offensive line has played horribly, and the run game is non-existent. And the Seahawks are currently 3-1. So one really bad team. One team who I think is better than what the record says, but Bryce Young has to put it together throughout a full game like we saw him do against the Falcons.
Yeah.
And then 2 really good teams on paper between the 49ers and the Seahawks, right? So that's kind of what we're working with. So people will look at that and be like, well, to come out of that 2-2, that's expected. That's pretty good. Let's see how Cliff did in year 3. He started out 4-0. Week 1 beats the Titans 38-13. The Titans finished 12-5 and were the 1 seed in the AFC that year.
We were.
So, Titans were damn good that year, and he blew out the Titans week 1. Then dogfight with horrible game management against the Vikings. He wins 34-33. If he has better game management, that's a 2-possession win. Vikings finished 8-9, had the 12th best defense in the league, just had a few toss-up games not go their way. So kind of like the Panthers in that regard. Not saying the Panthers were that good, but in terms of if we're putting labels on teams.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep. Beats the Jaguars 31-19. Jaguars were the worst team in the league that year and had the number 1 overall pick. They went 3-14. We can compare that to the Saints. Then they beat the Rams 37-20. The Rams finished 12-5, won the NFC West, and then mollywopped the Cardinals in the wild card round. So besides the Vikings game, which should have been a 2-possession win, the Cardinals scored 30-plus points in all those games, held the opposing team to 20 points or less in 3 of those 4 matchups, and it was the same makeup of teams in terms of record and how good they were. 2 really damn good teams, 1 team that just had some things not go their way, and 1 bad team. Cliff is off to a better year 3 start than Jonathan Gannon, who has a better roster, better players, in my opinion, better team management, and pretty similar clock management and game decision issues that Cliff had when he was a head coach. How the fuck are we worse? Like, it blows my mind that with all the similar issues between Cliff and Gannon in terms of game management and clock management, even with that, Kyler is who he is at this point. He's a spotty playmaker. And I love Kyler. Like, he's one of the most fun quarterbacks to watch when he's on. That's probably
but he's just not always on. And
yeah,
they paid him a bag, and it's just like that's this thing I kind of have with Trevor Lawrence. I really liked him coming out of college. Is he worth the 250-60 million they paid him? No. But did they really have any other option? Not really. So I think Kyler Murray and Trevor Lawrence are really comparable in that way because of they're good enough to get an extension, but they're definitely not good enough for the amount of money they get paid. And then that brings the team down because, when you're paying a quarterback $50 million, $60 million, that's eating up a huge portion of your cap room, and it hinders your financial flexibility to, sign free agents, trade for players, re-sign your own guys, and things like that.
And to that point, right? Like but the alternative, you have to look at that. Okay, so if we don't have Kyler Murray, are we just gonna bandage and patch free agent QBs and low value draft pick quarterbacks in? Because that's what the Browns had their guy. They had Baker, who is been awesome since he landed in Tampa Bay. But now the Browns are scrambling. Yeah, they made playoffs in 2023, but that was on the heels of their defense they still had a shuffling quarterback room. So yeah, you can get the playoffs once in a while, but if the goal is to win a Super Bowl, you can't do that with a carousel of quarterbacks year over year. You need established guys in that room, and you need guys who are proven gamers. Like, and that's funny that I say that, and we're having a Kyler conversation, but it's,
oh man,
but it's guys that go out and just get it done. And can Kyler do that? He can. Is he consistent on that? Absolutely not. And that's kind of when we saw him doing what he did at the start of 2021 in year 3 of Cliff. Like we knew Cliff had his issues. We knew this roster was not meant for long-term success, but we knew we had that Super Bowl window when we did. And that got squandered very quickly after the Packers lost that year. And that team totally collapsed, right? So like, and that's consistent. Kyler is collapsing when we need him to elevate. And that's like, and again, I love him. He's a super fun player. I think he's a much better leader and character guy that a lot of people give him credit for because they just see how he was with Cliff. Like Cliff was not a good head coach. Awesome OC.
Yeah.
Horrible head coach. And that does not bode well for a quarterback, right? And you see how Gannon will sing his praises and never says shit about him. And not that Cliff didn't say shit about him because he never spoke poorly about Kyler, but he also never hyped him up as much as Gannon did. And I think that is good for that QB head coach relationship, right? So like Kyler issues aside, Jonathan Gannon issues aside, what's going on with the rest of this team? Losing Clayton Adams, who we just talked about with the Cowboys, massive loss because this run game is horrible now. Without him, I think we're bottom 5 in rush efficiency. And that's even before James Conner went out with his injury, right? Like they just couldn't move the ball with the run game, right? Unless Kyler was scrambling. Drew Petzing, I hope he gets fired before the season's over because he has proven he is not a good offensive coordinator. I thought the run game mainly came from him and Clayton Adams was just a good secondary piece. Obviously, that's proven to be the opposite case because we played 2 of the worst run defenses and a defense that was depleted of talent, and we still couldn't run the ball the way we needed to. He can't find his way out of a plastic bag is what I say about Drew Petzing. Like he is, if we go back to my comment earlier about how the Seahawks safeties and DBs were able to play much tighter to the line of scrimmage, he doesn't attack the middle of the field in the intermediate area. And you have a perfect receiver to do it in Marvin Harrison. He is a clean route runner. He is fast out of his breaks. He has great hands over the middle, and they just don't use him for that. And when they started to use him for that, at points in the game, he was in his head. Like he had a perfect slant route caught over the middle, and he bobbled it and ended up being picked. Yeah. Like he figured it out. They threw some deep shots to him, and he made some great contested catches. So he figured it out. Now start utilizing him. Do I think Drew will? No. Drew's going to do what he does, and Gannon's going to keep saying, yeah, no, I have full faith in him, which I think is Gannon's biggest downfall is that he puts too much faith in his coaching staff. It's great to support your guys and be all about them, but you're the head coach. When shit hits the fan, you need to cut their shit out and be like, okay, we're changing play calling duties, or, hey, I'm going to help out with this, right? So Drew Petzing is another one who's a red flag. This team does not command respect from their opponents. And I'll use the Seahawks game as an example. Seahawks are in a very clear go for it situation. It's 14-3. You're in Cardinals territory at the 26-yard line. It's 4th and 2 in the middle of the third quarter. This is a place where you can go up by 3 possessions, and then 2 possessions. No, 3 possessions. And if you don't get it, the Cardinals haven't moved the ball on you all day. Now they have to drive 74 yards to get a touchdown and make it a 1-possession game because a field goal does the Cardinals no good. Go for it here. They kick a field goal. And a lot of people are saying it's because Mike Macdonald is a conservative defensive coach, or at least conservative decision-making, defensive-minded coach. And a lot of people get labeled into that. Mike Macdonald's is as aggressive as they come in terms of how he runs his defense. And I don't think there's a big enough sample size to show he's conservative in these situations because we've seen the Seahawks go for it in those 4th and short situations before. I think this was well, they're not going to move the ball on us. They're not going to do anything. No way they make it less than a 2-possession ball game, which they obviously did. But that was mainly helped because of a massive penalty in the 4th quarter on the second to last drive. And then Marvin Harrison finally figuring his shit out, which the Seahawks weren't accounting for, which I don't blame them for not accounting for that. So they don't respect the Cardinals enough to go for it. They're like, yeah, we'll take the easy 3 points and we'll keep them at bay, which is what they ended up doing for the vast majority of that game. Then DeMarcus Lawrence left the game with a quad injury in the first half. He could have returned to the game from what was reported from the sideline reporter. Mm-hmm. And he's currently day-to-day. He may not play this Sunday, so it might have been more serious. But at the time, they said, yeah, he probably could have came back if he needed to, but we're going to hold him out the rest of the game. Defensive end, you're paying a shit ton of money and is a proven really good veteran in the league. You don't want to bring back in the game because you don't need him. Like that speaks volumes to me about how opposing teams, or at least the Seahawks, view the Cardinals, right? Like
that's just not a very good look.
Yeah. It's really, it sucks that we're at this point with the Cardinals because I had a lot of faith in this team coming into the season. Like I remember year 3 going into Cliff, I was like, yeah, this team has a lot of top end talent, but the depth's not there. And if guys get hurt, like they eventually did, the season may go off the rails, which is what happened. This team is deep top to bottom. Like we're 6 deep on the defensive line, or at least interior defensive line. We have, once BJ Ojulari comes back healthy, which if you want to find out anything injury related about the Cardinals, good fucking luck, because Gannon keeps that shit under wraps better than anybody. BJ Ojulari tore his ACL last August. He's still not off the PUP list. We still have not heard anything about him. And it's, oh yeah, he's progressing. He's doing everything he needs to do.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, and which is fine. Like head coaches are supposed to keep it vague like that, but like that's alarming that he's not back yet. Walter Nolan, another guy, had injury early in training camp. He's not back yet. And he was supposed to be getting activated this week. Still on the PUP list, right? Like, so those are 2 massive players on the defensive front we still don't have that we're hoping to get back, right? Secondary, Will Johnson's been out the past 2 games with a groin injury, but he was awesome the first 2 games of the year. Like, but we've had guys like K'Trell Clark step up. Max Melton's been getting burned by JSN, which was expected. But like all around, the defense has played really well and is deep. It's the offense that needs to figure their shit out. And I think that's my biggest gripe is with the offense. And even though he's a defensive-minded coach, that starts up top with Gannon and saying we need to cut the shit and we need to go to Marvin Harrison and force feed him 12 targets a game. Even if the target's not there, give him a chance. Because you took him 4th overall, you better treat him like it. And that's my biggest problem, is that Gannon he's doing all the right things in terms of rebuilding, but now to take it past rebuilding and to pretending he's not doing what he needs to do. Mm-hmm. So that's my Cardinals rant. I want to give you time to have your Titans rant, because I know how mad I am. Man. I can't even imagine how mad you are.
Dude, it's awful. I don't know what I'm going to do after baseball season, honestly. This whole summer I've covered baseball, then went into college football and doing the whole covering the whole postseason for the MLB. So at least no matter how far the Sox make it, I've got until the end of this month thinking about baseball. So Titans are somehow they're worse than they were last year, as if that was even possible. They went 3-14 in year 1 of Brian Callahan, and they're 0-4 to start 2025. And he recently just gave up offensive play calling duties to quarterbacks coach Bo Hardigree, which this is where my first thing is. It's like, okay, Callahan was the offensive coordinator for the Bengals with Joe Burrow. He's an offensive guy. That's why he's calling plays as a head coach. He still has an offensive coordinator. Why is the offensive what does the offensive coordinator do if you have to go to the quarterback's coach to call plays? And so they went down to Houston last week. I had some hope. They played really well in Houston last year and actually got a win. That was Will Levis's best game outside of his debut. Gave me a lot of false hope. They had 0 trips to the red zone, got shut out 26-0. It was a 6-0 game going into the fourth quarter. And then the defense just fell apart. And this isn't even like going on to the team building part. Like, we're at a point in the season where we may have a toxic environment brewing. Cornerback Jarvis Brownlee Jr. before the Texans game was traded to the Jets. He was drafted in 2024 as a 5th-round pick out of Louisville, and he's been a full-time starter since he got selected. The Titans traded him and a 26th 7th to get back a 2026 6th-round pick. Like, there has to be something going on behind the scenes to where, yeah, Brownlee's not a perfect player. He had a lot of penalty issues this year, but the team sucks. They need someone to play cornerback, and you're just, it's like they're cutting him almost because it's a late round pick swap. They just want to get him off the team. I don't know what's going on there. Callahan did say that it's not a fire sale. We'll see about that come trade deadline. Then the next thing is the offensive line was supposed to be improved. Brian Callahan brought in his dad, Bill, from the Browns. He's touted as this legendary offensive line coach. And I actually saw someone on Titans Twitter say the only thing that Bill Callahan has ever done is invent his sled, his blocking sled, which if you gonna see some really funny shit, just go to Titans Twitter. It's awesome. But Dan Moore Jr. lived left tackle. They just paid him a bunch of money. And he has a 57.9 PFF grade. I know that, like we said earlier, PFF grades aren't perfect, but he's graded 45th out of 73 tackles. Like, they just threw a bag at him, and he's below, like way below average.
Mm-hmm.
Lloyd Cushenberry, their center.
Not to cut you off, but like I mentioned this last episode. I know PFF grades are, volatile.
Yeah.
Or volatile, or the fuck you pronounce that word. Their offensive line grades, I think, are really good and track really well. So the grades you're going to hear, they pretty much match the tape. Go ahead.
Yeah. Another guy they paid a bunch of money to a couple seasons ago, Lloyd Cushenberry, their center. His grade's 54. That's 28 out of 35 centers. I know he ruptured his Achilles last year, so I will give him a little bit of grace. That's not a very easy injury to come back from, but he also has started all 4 games, so he should presumably be healthy. Their right guard, Kevin Zietler, came from the Lions. He's got a 64.3 grade, 26 out of 77. I mean, that's pretty good considering the rest of the line, but he was also supposed to be better than this. We were supposed to have a bright spot in left guard Peter Skoronski and right tackle JC Latham. I love JC. He's ridiculously athletic for a lineman, but he's played in just 1 game. He's got a hip injury. Skoronski, on the other hand, has played really, really well. I think he's going to be a pretty good guard in this league. So far this year, he's got a 72.9 PFF grade, which is 7th in the league at guard. I mean, considering that the rest of the offense is a dumpster fire, I'll take that. That's a single digit number for his rank. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, even Zeitler's been decent. I know like 26 out of 77 doesn't sound great.
Yeah.
Like a 64.3 PFF grade is like an above average grade.
Yeah,
that's
for
solid.
sure.
Yeah, keep going.
Yeah. Going back to Brian Callahan, I hate to say this because I was really high on him. I liked the idea of getting an offensive-minded head coach for Will Levis at the time, and now Cam Ward. Clearly, we've seen the Bengals don't know what the hell they're doing. Their whole system is just Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. They had the right idea. They got the wrong guy. That's fine. I'm firmly on the fire Callahan train at this point. He just wasn't aggressive as a play caller, and Cam Ward has a really, really good arm. It's a more complete arm than Will Levis had last year. He's a lot smarter than them. He's a lot smarter than Will Levis was. He doesn't call play action, and Ward thrived off of play action in college. We'd see a lot of drives where he just does run, run, punt, or run, run. Oh, shoot, it's 3rd and 8, incomplete pass, punt. And the team's just making the same mistakes. Last year, they were second in the league in penalties with 132 total, and they were third in penalty yards with 1,030 total penalty yards. This year, so far, they're fifth. They're fifth in total penalties with 35, and again at third in penalty yards with 296. Like, for a rebuilding team, you just can't make penalties and dumb mistakes. And they're at the same spot that they were last year with that, which is concerning because not only did you win 3 games last year, you improved the roster compared to last year. And you're playing arguably worse than you were with a supposedly better offensive line and with a better quarterback. And the thing that really pissed me off with Callahan was he misinterpreted the catch rule in week 1 against Denver. Rookie Elekeo Manor got his elbow in on a great sideline catch. The refs ruled it incomplete. Callahan didn't challenge, and it wiped out a 23-yard play. He said afterwards that it was a catch and he just got the rule wrong. I mean, at the time, I gave him a pass for this, but they suck, and they have sucked since then. So he's a bad play caller, and he had never called plays before he came to Tennessee. So didn't improve on calling plays, doesn't know the rules. And this brings me to my next point, which is that the organization is an absolute mess. 2022, they traded A.J. Brown. Their GM, John Robinson, got fired. Mike Vrabel was the coach from 2022 and 2023. He got fired by the new GM, Rand Carthen, who then hired Callahan before 2024. Carthen's team got the first overall pick, and then he got fired, and now Mike Borgonzi is the GM, and he should fire Callahan. So we're going to go into 2026 with Borgonzi's second year as the GM, presumably with his handpicked head coach. Like, you're just not going to go anywhere with a team that's constantly overhauling its coaching staff, and then when the coaching staff is new, they'll bring in their own guys, bring in their own coordinators and stuff like that. And I think that coaching in football is like, that's the sport where you need coaching. Like basketball, you don't really need coaching. Baseball, yeah, it's good to have a good manager, but that's not the end all be all. In football, if you have a bad coach, you're going to be a bad team. Like, I think we saw that with the Patriots once Tom Brady left. It kind of exposed Bill Belichick to the point where he gets fired. And now we're saying, oh, is Bill Belichick a good head coach or not? And we saw how bad they were without Brady. And of course, it's not a great example because Tom Brady's Tom Brady, but they weren't coached well at the end of that Belichick era. And so going back to the Titans and their organizational leadership and coaching there's no continuity. Like, that's just, it is the worst position for a young quarterback to be in and a young offense to be in. It's not all rain and clouds and thunderstorms. I think Cam Ward has shown a lot of flashes overall. Of course, the coaching staff has failed to support him, but I think his mentality is great. He's transparent, he's honest, he's hardworking. Like I said earlier, great arm, good athlete. He's been able to make plays that last year Will Levis would have fumbled or thrown a pick or done something stupid. Cam's a little bit smarter than him. I do think that he does play a little bit reckless, and that, it would be nice to see him not do the same shit that Will Levis tried to do. Then again, we're 0-4. We need something. Another positive is Alec Ailmanor. He was the fourth round pick out of Stanford. He had a near 300-yard receiving game in college against Travis Hunter. He has looked really, really good. I had a second round grade on him coming out, and I had him mocked. I think it was 37th or 38th overall to the Pats. They got him in the fourth. Right now, he's got 25 targets, which is first on the team, 12 catches, which is second on the team, 151 yards, which is first on the team. And then he's got 2 receiving touchdowns, which is also first on the team. And that's also both of Cam Ward's career touchdown passes. So they've definitely got a nice foundation. They got some chemistry there, and they've connected for a couple nice plays so far. So I think for me, every week I'm going to be seeing the box score and see how they do, seeing the plays where they connect. I would love for him to just force feed Aoman the ball at this point and just see what we have with those two guys, but it's not looking good. I would not be surprised if Callahan doesn't make it past Halloween. I think that we're just at a point where, okay, I don't like the idea of firing a second year head coach, but they just haven't improved at all. The same stuff's coming up again and again, and they just need to go back to the drawing board, which is a shame because we're just going to waste 1 year of Cam Ward. And a new coach, new play caller, new system is going to come in, a new playbook, and it's going to be like Cam Ward is. I don't want to say he's a rookie because he's going to have that year of NFL experience, but it's still a new system for him to learn. And I just hope that they're able to find the right guy and not waste 4 years of Cam Ward's career.
I think the right guy who would bring in the right culture is Jesse Minter, the DC for the Chargers. I've been high on him since he got hired by the Chargers. He ran one of the best defenses in the NFL last year, and they look really good to start this year. So I think he would be a great culture setter. He came from a championship winning culture with Jim Harbaugh in Michigan, and now he's doing really well with him in LA. I think he would be awesome, especially because this defense they have some guys who are good, like Jeffrey Simmons is obviously, I love Jeffrey Simmons. He's a freak. He's awesome. They brought in Cody Barton on a free agent deal. I think he's a really good leader and just locker room guy in that room. And he's got good playing ability. Like he hasn't been great this year, but he's still a good linebacker. So they have pieces on defense. Jarvis Brownlee was going to be a guy that I would be like, oh yeah, he's another good option, but obviously he gets traded away. So that was tough to see for him. But you have good pieces on defense, and then offensively, I mean, Mike McDaniel's going to get fired. I think he's the perfect option to bring in as an OC.
I've seen a lot of Mike McDaniel. I've seen some Mike McCarthy too. I wouldn't hate that. But
I wouldn't hate it either, but if McDaniel's there, I think he's the pick.
That's where I think, similar to what Mike Vrabel was, Mike Vrabel never called. Actually, I think he may have called plays 1 year defensively, but for the majority of the time that he was there, he was just, okay, I'm the head coach. Coordinators are going to call plays, but I'm going to oversee the whole team. He's a really good culture guy. I don't think he was great at in-game adjustments, but he had these guys ready to play every single week, and they just need a hard-nosed guy who's going to lead the team, and then go get a Mike McDaniel or whichever offensive coach gets fired. Just a guy who is similar to what Cliff Kingsbury is for the Commanders, a guy who can just call a really good game. Not a good head coach, but he's a great offensive coordinator, similar to what Vrabel's done with the Patriots with Josh McDaniels, and just get a guy who can stabilize the offense and lead the offense while the head coach does stuff that the head coach should do.
And we've talked about that. Basel and I have talked about that multiple times on the podcast, but I think that would be the best course of action for the Titans is get a head coach who's just a head coach. Because to your point, Callahan never called plays before. So now he's trying to figure out how to call plays at the NFL level and build a culture and run a team and make personnel decisions and run a staff and try to get the staff to buy into his culture and have it exude through them to the players as an extension of him. Like, that is so tough to do in its own right. And then you want to add play calling and scheming and situationals and tendencies on top of it. Like, if you've never done that, even at the pro level, like that's a lot.
And I like Callahan. I think that he's honest. He is trying his best, but I think he just went in a little bit too much over his head, and just the overall instability of, Carthen fires Vrabel, brings in his guy, which is Callahan, and then he gets fired a year into Callahan's tenure, and now Borgonzi's in, who Borgonzi didn't pick Callahan. Borgonzi's going to see the dumpster fire that is this team. He's going to get rid of all of Carthen's guys. He's going to bring in his new guys, which for Ward and the young guys on the offense, that sucks, but something has to change at some point. And I think that firing Callahan sooner rather than later is the best course of action, and just see what you have offensively with these guys.
I hope that they, at some point in the future, if things don't work out, 3+ years beyond, they bring in a GM and a head coach at the same time. I think that having a head coach and GM on the same page from the jump pays off in dividends as you go throughout their tenure together. Right?
Yeah, I believe the Jaguars did that this year. It was kind of weird in how they did it, but they've looked pretty good this year. And I think that's how it should be done.
Yeah, I agree. Like, that's like, I know the Cardinals have their issues, but Gannon and Monty have a really good handshake. They've been working great together. There's been multiple other franchises who've done the same thing where they've gotten rid of, GM and head coach and started brand new and fresh. And the Commanders obviously did that with Dan Quinn and it's Peters, right? I'm gonna get.
I think it's
Peters.
Adam Peters.
Adam Peters. Yep.
Yeah.
So they have that on the Epstein files. Have fun with that. Not to get into that weeds, but I think that's a little funny that came up as it did.
Yeah.
But getting away from Epstein, let's get into the top performers of week 4. We'll run through this quick because we're almost at an hour and a half and we still have a few more things to get through. So we'll keep it brief. We'll keep it to just baseline stats. I picked 2, Ohm picked 3, and I love his third pick that he had. But getting into mine, I picked Quinyon Mitchell is one of my top performers. Was 2 of 9 when targeted, allowed just 6 yards, had a pass breakup, and a 39.6 passer rating when targeted. That's the same as spiking the ball on the ground. So I've mentioned on the show before with Jordan Lewis last week. Same thing with Quinyon Mitchell. He was very good last year, looking very good again this year. Ashton Genty finally broke out and finally got over how bad this Raiders offensive line is. He had 21 carries, 138 yards for a touchdown. He got 123 of those yards after contact and had nearly 6 yards after contact per attempt. That's ridiculous. 9 missed tackles forced, 5 runs of 10+ yards, and he had 2 catches for 17 yards and 2 touchdowns. Looked just like Boise State Ashton Genty against a good Bears defense. Let me say above average Bears defense, but probably is going to end up being good defense by the end of the year when they get some guys healthy, like Kyler Gordon, Austin Booker, a few other guys as well.
Yeah.
Go ahead into your 3.
Yeah, so I mentioned Pickens. He had 8 grabs, 134 yards, 2 touchdowns, stepped up big time when CeeDee Lamb was out. Huge game for him. Puka Nacua for the Rams. He had 13 catches, 170 yards, and had his first touchdown of the season. But this year he has 42 catches for 503 yards in 4 games. He's on pace for 179 grabs for 2,138 yards, which would be the first 2,000-yard receiving season in league history. Both of those marks would be records, and I think a cool little caveat to that, if that happened, would be that it would make Matt Stafford the quarterback for the top 3 receiving yard seasons ever in this hypothetical of Puka, and then the old record of Calvin Johnson, and obviously that Cooper Kupp season, their first year together in LA. And my last guy was Marcus Jones. He's a Swiss Army knife for the Pats. He plays corner. He also plays a tiny bit of offense. He's done that before, but he's their main punt returner. He had 3 punt returns for 161 return yards and a touchdown off a return, which was an 87-yarder. He also had a 61-yard return and a 19-yard return, and that set the single-game Patriots record for punt returning. So it was a nice game for him. He really broke their game against Carolina open, gave the team a spark, gave the team a lead, and they never looked back.
Yeah, I love that you added a special teams guy there because I know we've kind of neglected that through the first 3 episodes. So thank you for course correcting us on the special teams department. From there, we'll transition into my top 10 teams. We'll go 10 to 1. I'll give a brief overview of each team. Number 10, entering the top 10 for the first time, I have the Seahawks. We talked about the defense, how damn good they are. Once this offense gets rolling, KW3 starts to get his feet under him. Zach Charbonnet's healthy, and they start using Elijah Arroyo more. Like, I love AJ Barter, but Arroyo is a better receiving option. Once they start incorporating those guys, like, this offense is going to blow open. Number 9, I did not think they would ever break the top 10 this year, but the Jaguars. Anthony Campanile has done an awesome job with this defense. They are the first team in NFL history to force 3 or more turnovers in every game through the first 4 games. That's really good. That defense is keeping this team in the game. I think they've added 2.5 possessions per game versus last year, which is just batshit. So really good for the Jaguars. The Chiefs at 8 had a really good convincing win against a Ravens team that did have a couple of injuries, but the game was well out of control before Lamar went out. Number 7, I have the Rams. Number 6, the Chargers do drop a little bit after that Giants loss, but I still think they are a really good team. Just had a bad matchup. The Bucks at 5. Number 4, the Packers, as they start to climb back up. Packers and Bucks swap spots. Number 3, the Lions finally break into the top 5 after an awesome performance against a very good Browns defense. Lions are back. I was not as high on them to start the season just with all the coaching changes, but they look every bit as good as they used to. Number 2, the Bills, and number 1, the Eagles, still the top 2 teams in the NFL. And until the Eagles finally get beat because they can't pass the ball in the second half, then we'll have discussions about the Eagles not being the number 1 team. Getting into, well, did you have any?
No, I think that's a really solid list. I mean, the Eagles have had some of that Chiefs devil magic from last year, like with a couple weeks ago. Was it a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, I think so.
But the Jordan Davis,
yeah, it was 2 weeks ago.
A block return for a touchdown, like that's not going to happen every single game.
No.
But they're a really good football team, and they can beat you in multiple ways. Great defense still. They have a lot of offensive weapons. And then the Bills have the best quarterback in the league. I think Josh Allen is single-handedly like carrying that team. I'm really excited for them to play the Patriots this next week on Sunday night in the Blizzard uniforms. I think that's going to be a sneaky good
Those
game.
uniforms are so sick.
Yeah, I saw something where they're asking all the fans to wear like white head to toe, and they're handing out white towels.
That's so cool.
I
And
think the only thing,
Bill's Mafia is going
oh
to show out
yeah,
for that.
they'll do that. I just don't know if a lot of them are gonna get like dirt or gravel pavement on them from jumping through tables before the game. So it'll be more like in March when the snow's melting and gets really
Hmm.
yucky.
Yep.
But I think the only thing that would be cooler than what they're doing is if they did it in like December and there would be a chance to snow. But I think that'll be a good game. They've played really well all year, and I'm rooting for them to get over the hump this year. I think Josh Allen can do it, and yeah, I think he really deserves a ring after what he's brought to Buffalo.
I agree. It's his time, and this is the perfect season to do it. Lamar and the
Yeah,
Ravens obviously have had their struggles. The Chiefs, until this last game, did not have an offensive identity. So the two
yeah,
juggernauts in the AFC are starting to dwindle down, it seems. So this is the window, and this is when they can do it.
for sure.
Let's get into the lightning round. We're going to go game by game. We're just going to state our winner and a brief reason why. And if you don't have a brief reason why, you can just say who you think is winning. Starting off this week, Thursday Night Football, 49ers at the Rams. I got the Rams in this one. 49ers are just depleted top to bottom.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
Going
Um,
Rams as
they
well.
they got a lot of injuries. I think both Pearsall and Juwan Jennings are out. Um,
Mhm.
it's just hard to win against a good team when your top two receivers are hurt.
Agreed with that. Vikings at the Browns in, I believe it's London. It is an international game.
Yeah, that sounds correct.
Yeah, this is Dylan Gabriel's first start. I completely missed going over other notes, but we can talk about that at the very end.
Yeah,
But Dylan Gabriel's first start, I'm going to give this to the Vikings.
yeah, I would have to agree with you. I just don't think the Browns are very good. Um, the Vikings have had their struggles, but I think JJ McCarthy is still out. Um, I'm not 100% sure on that, but
He's going to resume practice this week, but even if he comes back,
okay.
I think either way they
Yeah,
win.
yeah, they should win.
Cowboys at the Jets. Who do you have?
After last week, I have to go with the Cowboys. Um, the Dolphins aren't a very good team, and the Jets lost to the Dolphins. I like their hire of Aaron Glenn in the offseason in terms of like the vibes, but they're the Jets. I hate to say it, but they suck.
I'm going to go
They just, yeah,
Cowboys as well. It's I love Aaron Glenn. I think Justin Fields is a good leader and a good person. The quarterback play has not been there.
yeah.
Giants at the Saints.
I gotta go Giants. The Saints are just not good. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
I like Jackson Dart winning his second start, even without Malik Neighbors. I think this is going to be a win for the Giants. Raiders at the Colts. I think this is actually an interesting game outside of record, but I am going to go Colts for this one just because the defense is menacing.
yeah. I'm gonna go Colts too. Just because the defense is good and Geno Smith outside of Week 1 has looked pretty bad. Um, and the Colts defense has been on another level this year, and all Daniel Jones has to do is not get into a situation like he was in last week, which I don't think he will be in
Mm-hmm.
against the Raiders.
Agreed. Dolphins at the Panthers. I'm going to go with the Panthers with this one. I think Bryce Young gets his second win against bad defense.
I would have to agree with you on that. I'm a big T Mac fan, and I really hope that Bryce Young is the guy in Carolina. I think Mike McDaniel has tapped out. Um, Great play caller, pretty bad head coach. I mean, I think he's definitely got into the Miami life. Um, and especially without Tyreek Hill, first full game without him, I think you're going to see the offense regress a little bit. So I'm going to go Panthers.
Love that. Broncos at the Eagles. I'm going to go Eagles this one.
Me too. Yeah. I like Bo Nix, but the Eagles are just too good.
Texans at the Ravens. Lamar may play, but I think it's a long shot. I'm going to go Texans on this one.
I'm going to go Ravens just because the Texans offense has been just an absolute mess, and the Ravens still have, on paper, a good defense. I think this would be a sneaky game where they figure it out just because they have the added pressure of, oh, Lamar's not going to play or may not play. And then they also have Derrick Henry, who he's had his fumble issues this year, but he's still showed signs of not slowing down. And he has the capabilities to just put a team on his back and win them a couple games.
If the Ravens end up winning that one, I think it's going to spell for a lot of issues with the Texans.
Yeah.
This is a fun one. Titans at the Cardinals. How fitting for this episode.
Yeah. I'm going to go you guys. I'm going to go Cards. Titans just, they don't have anything, honestly.
I want to believe you, but I think this is a stereotypical Cardinals loss. And I hope they do, so this way Petson can get canned. But given what happened in the Texans games, and the Texans offense is worse than the Cardinals right now, my gut says Titans, but analyst brain mind, Cardinals should win this one. Yeah, hopefully by 2 possessions. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Bucks at the Seahawks. This is a fun one.
Yeah.
And this is the throwback game. So this is 2 really good uniforms.
All right. I mean, my heart says the Bucks just because of how they've always been in close games this year. They've come back, made it tough, but I think the Seahawks defense is really good, and I think Darnold's going to make enough plays and outduel his former teammate in Carolina.
I'm going to go Baker on this one, just because if they were able to go toe-to-toe with the Eagles and they made as many mistakes as they did.
Yeah.
Against, point. I love the Seahawks defense. They're not as good as the Eagles defense. I think they're going – the Bucks – this is going to end up being a really – kind of like the Rams-Colts game this past week. Mid-scoring game, but really good football.
Yeah.
Lions at the Bengals. Lions.
I
don't think we need to elaborate.
Yeah.
Commanders at the Chargers. Jaden Daniels looks like he's going to be healthy for this game. Who do you got?
I'm going to go with the Chargers, even though Joe Alt is hurt, and that's a big hit to their offensive line because they already lost Rashawn Slater on the other side of the line in, I think it was preseason or training camp. But Omari and Hampton looked really, really good last week, and I think the Chargers finally have the right coach. We saw it last year, and I think they're all bought into Harbaugh's mentality, and I think Herbert is going to have another good year, and I'm still just not sold on what the Commanders are doing offensively, so that's why I'm going to have to go with Chargers.
I'm going to go the opposite. And I think it's because of the offensive line issues the Chargers have. I mean, the Giants do have a really good pass rush. The Commanders' pass rush isn't as good, but they still have some solid players there. I love the Chargers, and I think they're going to be a really good team this year. But I think just matchup, given where both teams are at right now, I think the Commanders win this one. Sunday Night Football, Pats at the Bills in the winter whiteouts. Who do you got?
I want to say the Patriots just because of how good they looked last week, but the Bills are just better. I think the Patriots, at least from what I saw last week, so I'm leaning heavy on recency bias. Drake Mays played really well this year. I think they're just a year away, at least offensively, in terms of the pieces they have around him, and especially just up in Buffalo. Like you said, the whiteouts, Sunday Night Football. I mean, the Bills fans are going to be tailgating all day. That environment's going to be crazy. I think it's just not enough for me and the Patriots. So I have the Bills.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Bills win this one. Not easily, but I think it'll be a 2-possession win. And then Monday Night Football, Chiefs at the Jags. This is a sneaky good matchup.
Yeah. Like you said, the Jags defense has been playing unreal this year. I'm just going to go with the Chiefs. They figured some things out last week. Against the Ravens, Mahomes threw 4 touchdown passes. It's just hard for me to bet against them when I know that he's still a top 3 quarterback in the league. Kelsey's not who he used to be, but Reed is still a really good play caller. They have a lot of intriguing weapons. So I got to go with KC there.
Yeah, I'll go with KC as well. As good as the Jags defense has been, they haven't played an offense like the Chiefs, which I know has had their struggles, but this looked completely different. And this is oversight by me. Xavier Worthy last year just looked like a gadget player, even though he had some good games. But he looked like an actual wide receiver out there against the Ravens, which I did not expect, especially coming back after playing pretty much one series. So really solid stuff from him. I think the Chiefs win this one. I think it'll be a battle, though. It'll be close.
Yeah.
On bye week, we have the Bears, Falcons, Packers, and Steelers. So if you're a fan of any of those teams and you did listen to this whole podcast, thank you so much for tuning in. Just going through some final notes. Malik Neighbors tore his ACL. He's done for the year. This was really sad for a lot of people and a lot of my fantasy teams. Tyreek Hill torn ligaments in his leg. He's out for the year and has a long road to recovery, but only one surgery was needed, which was not expected. So that was good to see. Nnamdi Madubuike, a stonewall on the Ravens front, is ruled out for the year with a neck injury. That's a massive loss with a defense that is off to a really rough start. Lamar Jackson may miss time with a hammy injury. Then 3 key players on all teams that I'm going to mention: Colton Miller, Braylon Allen, and Joe Alt, all going to miss time with ankle sprains. Dylan Gabriel, I mentioned, is going to get the start. The Browns are averaging 195.3 pass yards per game and 14 points per game. A change was needed. Purdy, Pearsall, and Jennings all ruled out for Thursday Night Football. We went over earlier. Xavier Howard retired. He was allowed 7 receptions on 10 targets for 112 yards, 1 touchdown, 6 first downs allowed, and 104.4 passer rating allowed. That's one hell of a way to go out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be honest. Until I read the notes, I didn't know he was still playing. I thought he had retired.
Yeah, no, he got picked up by the Colts a few weeks back. Yeah, this feels like, oh my God, who was the Vontae Davis? That's who it feels like. Yeah, it feels like that. Was with the Colts when that happened. We'll always have that crazy 2020 season. He was targeted, I think, 10th most in the NFL that year. He got targeted 90 times, allowed a 53 passer rating, and had 10 interceptions and 10 pass breakups. Like, stupid good a year from him. Jaden Daniels, as we talked about, looking healthy for this week. And the Texans traded Cam Robinson to the Browns, addition by subtraction in my book, but the Browns need help. So kind of worked out for both teams, but, you know, they traded for him last year and then they're trading him this year. I don't like the move in totality, but Cam Robinson is not good. Yeah, exactly.
One more thing that I saw today was Darius Leonard. I know he goes by Shaquille Leonard now.
He retired too.
He is, I think he's signing like a 1 day with the Colts to retire. He was a solid player for them. He was better than solid, but I just remember him getting run over by Derrick Henry a lot. So that's just bias here. But I feel like ever since he changed his name to, I think Shaquille's his actual first name, then he just went by Darius. But ever since he went by Shaquille, he kind of fell off a cliff. But he was a really good player, and I think that's cool that the Colts are letting him do that.
Yeah, he had a really good 3-year run. I think going into the COVID season is when he started to wind down a little bit.
He dealt with a couple back injuries, I know. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in and for either listening or watching along with us. You can follow us at House Enterprise at pretty much all the socials. I think I'm contractually obligated to say X. It's Twitter. We all know it's Twitter. Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, at House Enterprise. You can find us all there. You can read all of Ohm's awesome blogs and content over at houseenterprise.com as well. Writes about Titans, writes about baseball as well, among other things. So really good content he has there. as well as all of our other writers at the House Enterprise. You can find other content there. You can follow us on all socials. I'm pretty active on Twitter at Jordan Laube FB. I don't know how active you are on Twitter and Instagram, but at _OM Brown BROWN. You can find us there. Any last thoughts?
No, I mean, thank you for having me on. I know this is your plan, Jordan, to transition more into the podcast side of things, to talk about football. Yeah, it was a blast, and I hope to be on sometime soon again. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll definitely have you on in the future. Lots of great insightful stuff from you. And for the listeners at home, you can go on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Music, wherever you get or Apple Podcast, wherever you get your podcast from. You can find us all on there and listen to all of our previous episodes as well as our team preview breakdowns we did heading into the season. You can find all that and more at thehouseenterprise.com. And as always, my name is Jordan Laube. Owen Brown, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you guys back here next week.